This is cream of cauliflower with fried oysters. Very unusual sounding and extremely delicious. And I hope you give this a try. It starts off very simply. I got, as they say in England, a knob of butter. That's a couple tablespoons of whole butter, sweet butter. I have one shallot that I sliced and 2 cloves of garlic that I sliced. Now we're going to puree all this later, so it really doesn't matter. You don't have to do a fine dice on those, but slice them up. Add a nice big pinch of salt, and on really low heat, I just want to sweat and soften those slices of garlic and slice of shallot for about 10 minutes, very slowly. Okay, I don't want any color on them. So about 10 minutes on low heat. I added 2 heads of cauliflower that I cleaned. It's pretty much just the tops. All right. Now sometimes the cauliflower comes in those gigantic heads. If you got the large ones, use one of those. But I had 2 kind of small to medium heads, about 1.5 pounds altogether. And to that, I'm going to add a quart of chicken stock. Now, I really like this Kitchen Basics brand chicken stock. It is really, nice, rich flavor. It is a little dark. They use roasted bones, I believe. So that didn't bother me. But if you want it to come out maybe a little lighter, you could go with just a regular chicken stock or even a vegetable stock. And I'm going to simmer that for about 20 minutes until the cauliflower is nice and tender. All right. Now, I'm not going to cover this. I don't mind a little bit of that stock reducing because I do want this to be a fairly thick puree. And you know I love my stick blender. Okay. Now, if you want, pour this in a blender. Be careful. You can blend it like that. To me, so much harder, so much more trouble. Get one of these stick blenders. They're only about $25, $30. Saves so much work. They're so easy to clean. And you'll notice I'm just kind of turning it on and off. When I see a big chunk, I pounce down on it. Once all the major chunks are purified, then you can kind of tilt it up a little bit, and you really get a really nice, smooth, very, very fine puree. And that's pretty much done. Now to make a cream of cauliflower, you need, yes, cream. I'm going to put in a 1/2 cup of whole cream, or heavy cream, and give it one more blend. And again, you could just stir this with a spoon, but I really like how the stick blender kind of aerates it, and it makes it a little frothy and just gives it a really nice light texture. And again, it's fairly thick, but it's not, it's not like mashed potato. It's just got a nice, smooth, silky texture. Now, what we're going to garnish this slightly unusual dish with is chervil. It's kind of a leafy, almost like fern-like parsley. Really delicate flavor, really unique. Try to find some if you can. You can use parsley. I got 2 jars of that's Pacific oysters, or northwest. I think they're from Hog Island, I believe. But those were on special at the store. They were already shucked in the jar. Now, before you put them in your seasoned flour, and by the way, all the details are on the site as usual. Before you put them in the seasoned flour, make sure you drain them really well. Otherwise, you're just going to get a big lump of sticky flour. So I drained the oysters well. I shook them in my seasoned flour, salt, pepper, a little hot pepper. We're going to dredge them in some egg and then some breadcrumbs. So we're doing the traditional flour, egg, breadcrumb, classic breading mix. Again, you've seen me do this before. And if you keep one hand dry and you only use one hand for the breadcrumb, you're not going to have a big mess on your hand. Okay? So in the flour, then in the egg, then in the breadcrumb. And then what I do is I have a plate that I also put a nice thick layer of breadcrumbs down. And when I'm done breading one, I put it on the plate because it still will absorb some of the breadcrumb. So if you put it on a dry plate, it gets a little wet underneath. Now, I don't have a thermometer. Okay, if you do, get your oil to about 360, 370. But what I do is I put in just a little piece that fell off, a little chunk of breadcrumb, and if it bubbles and browns, I know I'm good. So I just have so much experience with this. I know when my oil's hot. I suggest you get a thermometer. Then you know it's exact. So go about 370, and these are going to cook quick. I'm warning you. I did about 4 at a time, just for the size pan I was using. And these only took about maybe 2 minutes. All right, I want them a nice golden brown. Now, golden brown and golden black, different, okay? So I want them to get a good brown on it. I want a nice crispy, crunchy coating. All right, still nice and succulent, juicy inside. But have your spider, that's what that strainer is called, have your spider ready. So as soon as those are perfect, you can get them out, put them on a towel. And then I put a nice ladle of my puree into the bowl. garnished with my fresh chervil, and that was just a really, really interesting creative dish, I thought. I stole this, as you'll read on the site, from Chef Thomas Keller of the famous French Laundry. He actually served this dish cold with a fresh oyster on a cauliflower panna cotta. So anyway, you'll read about that on the site. But this is just a really, really unique dish. The kind of briny, slightly salty oyster, along with that smooth, silky cauliflower puree. It just really works. And it's kind of a take on a classic oyster stew, which is oysters cooked in milk. Anyway, I really hope you try this. It's not hard. Enjoy.